The following content is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. You're listening to the Everyday Therapy Podcast. I'm JC Rader, and this is Julianne Schroeder. We're therapists having open conversations, sharing tips, stories, and overall emotional wellness. For more information on our community events, counseling, or online services, contact us at everydaytherapypodcast.com. We're also on YouTube, iTunes, so please rate and review us. It means so much to us, all y'all's feedback. So thank you. But yeah, let's get this party started today.
Yes, and before the party starts, we get to thank our sponsors because we want to partner with people that support our mission for overall emotional wellness. And Therapy Space has been so good to us, and we love what they do in offering these really beautiful spaces, on par with Super Yoga Palace, I will say.
Look at that.
Yeah.
So hip, so cool.
We're
the same person.
We are. Yeah. So if you've been listening to us, you know how much we love Therapy Space and offering flexible sort of rental
contracts. Yeah. So that you can start off private practice basically with ease. Like there's just not a lot you have to do. Because it can be so complicated to start your own practice. And they do all the little stuff like have coffee and paper and weight room and all of that.
Weight room?
A waiting room.
Okay.
A weight room. Yeah, they also have a gym.
I was like, yes,
no, they don't.
Is important too.
Yes, thank you for clarifying, Julian. And they're doing 1 month free, which is super cool.
That is such a big deal, especially because it takes a while sometimes to build up clientele. So I love that they help the people out that are helping others.
Yeah, so tell them that we referred you guys and you can get 1 month off your first month.
Yeah, so all mental health professionals, I know that I work with those with disordered eating, so they're open to dietitians, anything in the realm of wellness.
They're super cool. We love them. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Therapy Space.
Yeah. So.
I know you're so excited to introduce our guest.
Yeah.
But we also have another sponsor-ish for today. Right?
Oh, yeah, we have a code for today.
Yeah.
So, maybe we should talk about what we're talking about first.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah. So, and who we're talking to.
Oh, yeah. She's just waiting eagerly, so patient.
Yes, but we have a discount for what we will be talking about today.
Okay, cool.
So, but we have Jessica Jordan here. She's kind of famous in the Dallas yoga scene. Jessica's like, oh my gosh, why did I sign up for this?
This is also the time where we flatter you and shower with compliments.
Yes. So she created Super Yoga Palace, which I know it wasn't your intention for it to be like cool and underground, but it's so cool and underground and hip. And I don't know, I feel like it's like the coolest yoga studio in Dallas.
No, so I've just transitioned some, offices since our offices are in the back, and I've had my clients and my clients' parents come and they're like, oh, this is such a cool space. I was like, yeah. I know.
And it smells so good. That's what they always say too.
What is it? Yes, all the incense and oils.
And that's super cool. So you run a business, you're an entrepreneur, you do yoga, you teach yoga, workshops, all these cool things. And you're a legacy in the Polyphonic Spree music group.
Yeah, legacy, how do we define legacy? That seems real big, but old? I don't know,
Seasoned. That's a better term. Right?
Yeah, so I've been with the Polyphonic Spree since I was 25. So I'm only 26 right now. So.
Only a year now.
No, I've been with them, actually about 17 years, which it's so weird to be able to say things in numbers like that.
Yeah.
But I have, and it's been an adventure, a wild ride, and so grateful for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us anything else you want to share with our listeners the first time that they're meeting you.
Oh my gosh, the first time they're meeting me. Let's see. So I'm very visionary. So if you meet me for the first time and I've had any kind of caffeine, I may just like read your future, but not with
Give me your palm.
like something. I tend to see things for others. I see it for myself. I'm definitely fire, ready, aim, which can be good, especially when you're wanting to start things, because nothing's ever going to be a perfect time to start.
Yeah.
Reining it in, as we know, like in yoga and with doshas, and you get a little more clear on like who you are, how you operate, what serves you, what doesn't serve you so well. That's where some of this information or some of the work by Danielle Laporte has really helped me. But so I started Super Yoga Palace kind of a lot like that. So touring with the Spree for many years, we traveled all over the world, and we were on Disney's label at the time. So it was a lot. And we opened for David Bowie. We played at the Nobel Peace Prize. Like,
oh my
all
gosh.
this stuff
We
is
didn't
happening.
know she was that big.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, I am one, like the band at one point had like 30 people in it. So I'm one of 30. So I'm like in the back. Nobody's looking at me. I'm just a vocalist.
So humble.
So, I mean, but it's really true. Like, everyone's looking at Tim because he's an amazing, front man. He's wonderful. If you haven't gone to a show, it's quite the experience. But, whenever you usually tour when there's albums. And especially a band that size, there needs some muscle behind it. So as in the art and commerce and business and things like that. So when the label dropped us, I had done that for a number of years as pretty much my career.
Yeah.
And so that's where I was like, oh, great. Well, what am I going to be when I grow up? What am I going to do?
What now?
Yeah, what now? So one moment you're like playing the Nobel Peace Prize and you're next to Oprah and Tom Cruise and all that. And like the next minute I'm serving chicken fried steaks at lunch during the lunch hour at a great place, by the way, Olga Cafe. The owner there is very sympathetic to musicians and actors and people that had, like, if we needed off to do a show. So it worked with my schedule, but that's when I was like, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to be? Because I was in my early 30s at that point, had small children, young children. And so that's where I decided I was going to pursue my yoga certification.
Okay.
There wasn't a lot to choose from. This was in 2009, but that's where the journey began, jumping in. I remember the teacher at the time doing the program had said, if you are wanting to do this as a full-time career, find a way to love your job. This isn't really a lateral move. And I remember thinking, oh, she's not talking to me. Like, she's probably talking to somebody else. And so it's, a lot of different things have brought us up to this point, almost 10 years later, of having a healing space. We embrace a lot of different modalities to help the whole person. But that was definitely, I knew it was the arts or healing arts, both like feast or famine industries. And so, but very soulful. And, at first, when I started teaching, nobody came, then 2 people came, then a lot of people came, and we outgrew a space and we had to close. And then we reopened our space 2-ish years ago in East Dallas. And, so I am living proof that, like, if I can do it, anybody can do it. So,
Well, and I really see you and knowing you over the past year as like a healer. I feel like you really embody that as like a teacher and Reiki healer and just like overall kind of healer. Wouldn't you say so? So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, I would be curious. I think music can definitely be healing, but what for you, how did you, when you were faced with an identity crisis of sorts, like when we have a career change, like how did you know what direction to go into? How did you tune into what's next?
Yeah. Well, I definitely knew, as thankful as I was for the restaurant and the flexibility, that wasn't a long-term goal. There was a couple of things. One, it was, what did I need? And I needed something that was flexible. I wanted to be, and I always wanted to work outside of the home, but if my children needed me or room mom stuff or somebody was feeling under the weather, I wanted to be available. And so then I grew up in Southern Oregon. So I was always around, it's always been crunchy in Southern Oregon. And so even though, I didn't identify as a way at a young age, but like, healing arts, alternative medicine, supplements, things like that. That was just like the norm. So I did, and I was always very inclined towards mystery and energy, and knowing that there's a lot that's revealed. There's a lot that's been passed on that we can't for sure identify based in hardcore science, but there's truth through the ages. So I was very open to this. It was very interesting to me that there could be healing and maybe not completely measured in traditional Western science. It seemed to give a lot of hope. So that interests me in yoga. Also growing up, I was a gymnast. So initially, it was like, oh, I can twist and bend as an adult and it's exercise. So like, that's kind of where it started.
This is easy for me.
Yeah, that's kind of where it started. There's interest and so on and so forth. But yeah, so then looking at what are my options with these things. And so if you think of yoga, which is beyond fitness, but that is an element to it, as that, fitness professionals is actually a great path for mothers or people that are at home with children, because, if you work at the YMCA or something like that, there's usually care for a child. You can earn a little bit extra, get around a community. It's very good for your whole well-being to not just be at home, all the time. And so just from logistics, that made sense for me. If I needed off, I could request off. You're not locked into something really permanent. So knowing where I was kind of leaning and what that career path could look like, that's what had me, pursue it initially. And it evolved into so much more. But I definitely know, like what you had touched on, music. So, we had toured like so much with some really amazing bands, and music has evolved so much as to how people access it. Before you either like knew indie music or you just turned on the radio. I mean, there wasn't, and so and then with digital age and everything, that's a lot more accessible. And but it wasn't like that. Even when I started with the band 17 years ago, so much has changed. So I would come off tour with like just great music, and typically when I go into studios that had music, it would be like very new age bird call kind of music. And I was like, okay, I mean, like,
gotta change this up.
Like, is there any way that we can kind of like support the energy of a room, but in a fresh approach? Like take this ancient practice and bring it into the modern age and meet needs and kind of just a way that resonated with me. And people might call it hip or underground or whatever they want to call it, but it just really resonated with me. So I would find albums, at the time, like Sigur Rós. I had seen them play at the Lyceum in London, and it was just so moving. And it's like, well, we don't need the bird call, new age music, and we have Sigur Rós right here. It was just so amazing. And of course, and then also just having a background in music, I understood, and not just from the Spree, my whole side of my family, that I have a Mexican side of my family, I'm half Mexican, that lives in Los Angeles, and they're all working musicians or have been in that industry for a long time. So it's just a little bit in my blood. Sure. So kind of having that background, I understood music and how it supports, some people just, if they don't know that, they might just press play on an album. But if you do understand it, you understand how it supports you energetically, spiritually, as you're warming up, as you're getting into how it can support the energy when you're kind of pressing in and leaning into that edge. And then as you're bringing people to kind of be down again with their breath, if they lost it through the practice, and to be able to hear their heartbeat and feel themselves as a human being and like just connected to other, just something divine, something that maybe we don't create enough space to let ourselves to connect to. And so that was always, a way to weave in things that I love. I never knew if it was right or wrong. It was just what resonated,
Yeah. It seems like you're really able to like blend and integrate the two to kind of fit you now. where you are now?
Yeah, so it seemed less about, okay, objective, I need to find a job that has this paycheck, and it was really being in tune with yourself and knowing and that guiding you, which is what the desire map and is and kind of this approach to setting goals or intentions, which we're so excited to be talking about, and have people become just a little bit more aware of their ability to navigate life, not on like the shoulds, but on being able to tune into oneself.
Yes.
And what they want.
So we are talking about the Desire Map Planner today. Can you share a little bit about like what that is to you, what that means to you?
Yeah.
How you explain it to your students and everything?
So the Desire Map, about a year and a half ago, I had heard through a workshop we were doing, one of our regular gals mentioned Danielle Laporte, and the context, I can't even remember exactly what we were talking about, but the context, I just remember how I felt within that context. I was like, I need to check out this woman and her planner. I'd heard about this planner. So I'm actually, even owning business, even, just all the things I have my hands in, I'm not the best planner. And so I would try because, as of the last few years, there's all kinds of planners for all kinds of things. Oh, yeah. And they can run from, 10, 20, and 30 on up, and so I would try a number of them. I would spend a little here and then invest there, and it would become unused. I just was not utilizing it. So honestly, I would just go to the dollar store, and that was like the best thing, because really I just need to write something down. Writing something down for me is more just it commits it to memory than actually following some detailed plan.
Yeah. Well, they say the act of writing, if I can just interrupt real quick.
Yeah.
And there's a 46% success rate in just being able to write something down.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So almost halfway there.
And you said that if people don't write it down, there's a 3%?
Or more so that in terms of goals and intentions, about 3% of the population actually do that regularly.
Yeah. Well, and I imagine in the digital age too, with notes and reminders, and I still have to be very tactile about it. And even though it looks like chicken scratch, even though most of the time I don't reference it, it's just a good. So I was wondering about this, and I had started to follow her on Instagram. So Danielle Laporte is the author of The Desire Map, and it was very intriguing to me. And I love Audible because I'm in the car. It seems like a lot running errands. I can really get through some books and different things just in the time that you go to the grocery store and back and forth to the yoga studio and stuff. And so I listened to her work. And so I feel like personally in my life, I was blessed to live in a household where I always felt like I could. Now I came from, my parents were very young when they had me, so they didn't have a lot to offer in the way of here's your college or here's your, things like that. But what they did give me was belief. And so I never really doubted that in myself. If I thought, oh, they've got an arm and a head and legs, and so do I. So I guess I can do it too. So I love that. I really did just kind of go what was my gut saying? But when I started to dive into the Desire Map, it became very affirming of things, of starting to design my life based on how I wanted to feel. Now, not everybody, and a lot of people are not raised in a household like I was.
That sounds like such a gift.
It was. And of course, when you're growing up, you don't know what a gift it is. You just, you can, and this is, I think, normal if you did or if you didn't. We all have different life experiences. But the Desire Map, it was very affirming, and of course a good roadmap. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about that. But for people that aren't even sure, how to measure what they want or know what that is against their gut, this has some great tools to be able to tap into those things. And so what actually ended up happening was last year we had on our calendar, a lot of, wellness facilities do a vision board type gathering.
Yeah. Oh, I love my vision boards.
Yeah, and there's tons of different places. They do them in different ways. And, and nothing really beats the old-fashioned poster board magazines, and it's great. But I was just looking for something different because we had, a lot of us will write down goals, or even, at the new year, I want to, feel better about myself. I want to do X, Y, Z, whatever that might be. And so what happened for me was I actually listened to, like, as I was listening to the Desire Map on Audible, Danielle Laporte talks about how she started, because she was very successful prior to writing these things, different, avenues of her life. She said, it was a number of years ago, her and her husband sat down with their, new year, with their goals, like lose 10 pounds, join a church, pay off the credit card. And she just felt flat, because she knew a few months later she'd probably be in the exact same situation as most people find themselves in March, like not making the progress that they had hoped for when they joined the gym, when they did the things, She's like, so how is this going to be different? So she started to just write down how she wanted to feel. Like when it said credit card debt, she wrote down like freedom, like free, and like different feeling words. Or wanted to lose 10 pounds. Well, that's great and all, but like wanted to be lighter, like a church, why, community, like different words. And she started to tap into how like the goals and the feelings that were attached to them. Because when you know how you feel, when you can tap into that feeling, that how to get about the goals becomes a lot easier. So sometimes, like if you're like me, like I can like a lot of things. Like I'm like, I'll do that, I'll do this. And so the core desired feelings, which is really what the Desire Map helps you, find out, because there's a lot and they can all be good. But what's good for you may not be what I need to do, what's good for me.
Yeah,
And
I
so
think that trips
that.
people up, right?
Yeah.
That comparison and what are other people going to think? I need to hop on that bandwagon and be like them, right? So
because they're good things. There's a lot of good things out there, but it may not be good for you or good for you in the season, or it's, what, like, is it good for me? Like, I guess I just always think about what is it that I need to do? And I think sometimes, like my personality, if there's any 3s on the Enneagram or visionaries out there, you can kind of see yourself doing all the things. And you have to be realistic. Let's not say realistic, grounded in the season.
You don't like realistic.
Well, because I think a lot of things could be a possibility, and I don't know, maybe it's how I identify that word.
You are 3 too.
Yes. But it helps me realize, can I measure what, when something comes my way, can I measure it against my core desired feelings and then decide, is that something that I'm going to put energy into? Because we all have 24 hours, but only 24 hours in a day, because otherwise you run into diminishing returns. So for me, that helps to navigate where I want to spend my energy, because a 3 on the Enneagram actually does want to be successful and cross the finish line. So if I don't feel like, if it doesn't measure against my core desired feelings, then it's going to be diminishing returns and won't help me reach my highest health, in my own personality. Now for others, it might give them the opportunity to have a little bit more expansion, a little more valor, a little bit more like, okay, this really is truly what I want, like at my core, like what I'm walking towards. So I can feel brave enough to walk down this path, because what we give attention to does expand. And so or if it's like, okay, it kind of gives a good measurement, like, is this weighing against my, my core desired feelings or not? And so I think it gives a little freedom to explore what might seem a little bit scary for some. Of course, there's, middle ground between these personality types that I just, discussed. But for me, that's where it started. So last year we had this event on the books, and I was just very uninspired to do it. I was like, I knew it was good. I knew it would be good to get people in this space, in Super Yoga Palace, but I was like, but if I don't feel embodied and authentic in what I'm presenting,
people catch on. And
I can also rise to the occasion, and people may not catch on because of the 3 in me.
You're good at what you do.
Yes, but I don't like that feeling. Like one of my core desired feelings is embodied. Like, do I live this? Is this an extension of my life? If it's not, it's not that it's a bad thing. I just don't want to do it, because I want to be 100% all in to what I am saying that I think helps your life, not just because it means something else on just the operations of a studio. And so that's how I was feeling. I was like, yes, people get in the door with a vision type, I was like, but I really want that transformation to go beyond the 90 days. I wanted to see, how can I help them? And so, as a Desire Map facilitator, and just a desire map, and she has some other, material that I facilitate. It really is like a holistic life planner. So it helps take people that go, I don't even know. So we start with what's called, Free and Clear, which is a prequel to the desire map. And then we do an intro, because even an intro, it can be like a 2-hour session because you start digging. Yeah. You were there at one of our intros to the desire map that we did.
Absolutely. Yeah, there can be so much to it. And I think for certain personality types that are especially chameleon-like, I think some of the clients that I work with, and like even myself at times, like I'm so adaptable and pleasing to others, to be able to sit in a space and figure out what I want.
Yeah.
Right. Can be so, it takes time.
It does. It takes time. Yeah. It does. And that's the thing that's really beautiful is that it takes time, but in reflection, so much growth can happen in that measure of time. Like with, it's just like in fitness, they say that it takes 4 weeks for you to see your own results in your own body. It takes 8 weeks for maybe your spouse, partner, those closest to you to see it in you. And then it takes that 12 weeks for the rest of the world to go, wow. But I feel like with intentional growth, producing opportunities like this, it's very much the same. But what I like about offering it at Super Yoga Palace is that we do facilitate the community. I was talking to y'all earlier about how we look at it as a supplement. Like, do what you do in your life that you need to do, your vocation, take care of your family. If you need to get your cardio in, go for that bike ride. But get your head and heart right, because, our thoughts do determine our lives. Y'all know that better than even myself with your credentials. But it's one thing to be physically fit. And of course, endorphins do help get our mind more clear. But having that community, making sure that we kind of really reprogram some of those pathways and just kind of help us clear out. And then that transforms this space here in our heart. And then from our heart, then our actions start to come off the mat or out of the studio or out of the office and into our 4 walls and on our block and the community and eventually the world. And so I really look at this as, in yoga, I've got 60 minutes to lead a group class and I can only do so much. I mean, and everybody's own decision, everybody's own choices they have to take that first step. But I was looking at how can I go beyond just an event, just a class? How can I facilitate something where they can have an experience that I facilitate perhaps, or, and then dig into the book, or have an online community or come back for more, have a reference point, be able to continue on. It's not just, oh, that was wonderful, it made me feel good, and then I go back to the same old routine.
Yeah. So just for my understanding, because I'm not as familiar with the Desire Map Planner, so you help people kind of figure out their desired feelings, like how they want to feel for the rest of the year. How do you help somebody do that?
Well, so with the Desire Map, so there's a book that she wrote called The Desire Map.
Okay, so there's a planner and then there's also a book.
This is the book.
Okay, yes. So the book, it's like Guide to Creating Goals with Soul, and then you have a daily or weekly planner that you can kind of use to help guide that throughout the year.
Yes, and they work with the same material, but they're 2 different things. So for me, because, again, the 3 on the Enneagram, because of that, I went all in. Like, I got her materials, I got the Audible, I got the hard copy book.
And then you got the certification.
Yeah, the certification. All the things. Yeah. But I would say, and it depends on personality, some people like to just like really, take the book. I really feel like her material is just well served in a community setting. But it's great when you're in your car or whatever. So I like the Audible version of the book a lot. The planner is awesome because we have to get up. We all put our pants on. We all gotta go to work or do the things we do. So when you're planning out your day, when you're planning out the things that you want to achieve, it brings you back. And if you don't know your core desired feelings, she actually has PDFs that go along with her planner that will help you start to dissect what those are. And they will change. It can be
flexible and fluid.
It can be flexible and fluid. Like your seasons, will possibly and most likely change your core desired feelings. You may always have one, like one of my core desired feelings.
Yeah, what are yours for the year?
Oh, for the year? So, Okay, well, I don't know that they're changing anytime soon, just right yet, but peaceful,
Okay.
I remember that.
prosperous, abundant, and embodied. Those are very, very important to me.
Yeah.
See, I was wondering how many you would have. So
Yeah.
I was like, I have 5.
Yeah. What are yours, Julian?
So mine for the year, abundant, expansive, love. And we were trying to figure out a fun, joyful, light. I don't know. One of those. Playful.
Yeah.
One of those.
Yeah.
And then secure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Those are good.
Did you narrow down yours?
Okay, yeah. So mine would be wanting to be grounded. So, and within that kind of be moderate, like not extremes of like super excited or super down, but kind of grounded, centered, fun. So playful, that kind of like levity, forgiving. That wasn't a feeling, but I don't know how else to say it, but just kind of forgiving and connected to people. Those would be mine. And that has stayed pretty consistent over the years, that connected, compassionate, either fun or adventurous.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're free with the planner, the PDFs that help people start to dig. And just like a lot of things in a facilitated setting, I think people dig a little deeper and find things that they may not have realized about themselves. But I say start where you can. If you have Audible, get it on Audible. If you can go to half price, get it on half price. If you want to get it on Amazon, like the book or however you learn best, you can definitely start there and follow her on Instagram. That's free. Like start to just see what resonates and
Yeah. And then obviously, as all of us, being trained in yoga, for those listening, like being able to tune into our body. And so when like we, think about a word, ooh, does our body respond in a way that's like relaxed? Like, oh yes, this feels right. Or do we tense up and, like notice a drop in our stomach? Like this doesn't feel right. So
Intuition.
Yeah.
Peace.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because the one thing I think that people get a little bit caught up on when they start with this is that we create words that are doing words rather than being words.
Oh, explain that a little bit more.
I probably, yeah.
And I think it's easy to do, and there are words that you can find that, and sometimes, a lot of times, it's very interesting. Now I need to give an example of it, but a word that somebody may have their own self-defined definition of may actually be something that they're like tossing to the side because they don't think, and when we go through this like in workshop setting, think, oh, that's not me, and then a definition, and then we'll bring out actually like a Webster's dictionary. And it's very interesting how sometimes, just because of however life has brought us up to this point, we carry a certain identification of a word that's actually not the meaning of the word. And so we see it differently and we respond to it differently than it actually is the meaning. So that can create freedom, and nobody has to use any one word, but it's very interesting what we emotionally attach to words. But one of the, so do you mind if I read this?
Oh, yeah, no, please do.
So core desired feelings. So you'll always hear in her book and then in these workshops is, how do you want to feel? Not what do we think we need to do to feel a certain way, but how do we want to feel? And that's kind of scary when you're like, because you think, oh, maybe that's not responsible or blah, 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 whatever goes with that statement. So here are some of the words that people have wrote in and shared. So inspired, secure, alive. I want to feel like a Rumi poem.
Oh, I love that.
I'm crying over here.
Fulfilled, energized, embodied and nourished. Ooh, now I'm going to cry too. Like I matter, alive and overflowing with abundance and all that I desire, delighted with life, fully incarnate, magical, energized, calm, bold, empowered, safe, loved, happy, unburdened, fearless, effective, shiny, unencumbered, free, fully expressed, easy like Sunday morn.
I love that.
Like a bright blessing. Enraptured, creative, solid, competent, radiant, purposeful, strong, invigorated, happy, like a rock star. There's a lot more, but it doesn't have to be just a word, but it's really how do you want to feel?
Yeah,
and
that's so funny because I've had the Desire Map Planner. I used it last year, and I normally change every year, kind of like you were, and I bought it again this year. So you know that it has to be doing something for you to feel like so connected to it. But I do, like being a counselor, thinking of like I have to put feeling words down. You know, like sad, or not sad, I don't want to feel sad, but happy or joyful, but that gives you a lot more freedom to like really be creative with it and figure out how you want to feel.
Yeah.
And going back to that doing versus being, I just think of like goals kind of as doing and the being like your values of what's important, like your heart, what's important to you, that like deep down piece, and like a foundation for you to place these little goals or resolutions or intentions on top of.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you know that you know, like what you want, then whatever goals, because, any kind of goal, resolution, I mean, work is life. Life is work. Like there's nothing good that comes without putting forth effort. But the effort can be a grind. It can be a drag. It can be hard. And so whether that's personal growth or you're starting a business, whatever it is, I always equate that to a meal. Like, yeah, sure, we can swing through fast food. Like, how nourishing is it? It's fast, you might be full, but what does it do long term? Or we can meal plan and get some healthy choices and go to places and then cook it up. That's going to take a lot more time, but how does it serve us long term? And so, thinking about the feeling of this is like when you are in tune and know your core desired feelings, then whatever you need to do to, if it is lose the 10 pounds, or if it is to join a faith community, or if it is to pay off the credit card debt, when you connect it, or whatever it is, when you connect it to that feeling word, you're motivated to do the steps necessary to be able to accomplish this task, because how you want to feel is that way when you know. Yeah.
We as humans, we need meaning, right?
Yeah.
Meaning to really, we can slog through, like, I think about it, what happens, and sometimes people go through their work in their career 20 years in, and then they like have that identity crisis, right? So you can do it to a point. But then there's a breaking point, and we need to feel meaning and purposeful, right? Yeah. Coming from an existential viewpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very human desire, for sure.
Yeah, and as I had mentioned that I didn't have much success with all the other planner types of planners, and so I used the dollar store planner until I found this one, and it really has helped me as somebody who has to bring structure and more grounding just to be, if you're going to run a business, you have to have that part of it, any way you slice it. And so to have some of those things, it's really helped me. And so to have this, it's this planner, it's the dollar store planner, but this helps me when I'm identifying goals and things that I'm not as excited about when it comes to just have the things you have to do, like as an adult, like we have to pay taxes, like we have to do these things, but like just identifying it gets the feelings. And also it helps you like with that reward, like keeping your eye on the prize of what, it's just a matter of time for things to evolve into really what you focus on does expand, and it can give you hope when you're attached to that feeling. So the Desire Map, the prequel to the Desire Map is a great opportunity. If you get the Desire Map Planner, it comes with a PDF and you can walk yourself through it. If you're the type of person that likes, workshop experiences, I'm actually hosting a free and clear workshop at 402 Hot Yoga. It's a new yoga space in Waxahachie. It's actually in the Rogers Hotel. It's a historic hotel. It's really cute, cool. Super cute. But we're doing that, just an introduction to the Desire Map, but basically because you're able to sit with your year and go without, and it's facilitated, so we're not marinating on the things that didn't work out, but we are going, okay, this was great. This
what
worked
did not
out.
feel good?
What didn't? How did this feel?
Okay.
And how did I feel about this?
Yeah.
And this and that, and then start to kind of shift, because things that we do could be right on. They can be like happy mistakes we didn't even know, or just surprises and things like that.
Happy mistakes.
Bob Ross would love that. we have to show you a mug by him. Sorry, but side note, we'll show you.
Yeah, you know, and starting there with like, well, let's not like throw the baby out with the bathwater with like just our past year. Let's take,
awesome.
you know, let's take what we learned from it, what we experienced through it.
I mean, JC, you've said this before. Like, our pain is expensive. Don't waste it. So the lessons that have been
Melanie
hard.
Wells.
Okay, Melanie Wells, shout out. Quote. But right, we can learn if we're willing to look at it and not go into that shame of how could I have done that? But into that compassionate piece. Okay, well, this was what happened, and this is what I can do moving forward.
Yeah. Right. And we all have those experiences. And I really don't know, you know, at my age, and I have teenagers, and I've lived enough life. I'm like, I keep wondering, who is this proverbial they we keep comparing ourselves to? Like, you know, I don't know, because even like I said, like, I feel like I was blessed in the situation that I was raised in. And I think, where are some of these ideas I have? They didn't come from my home, you know, and I feel like my immediate, like, you know, just my family and my friends I consider family, it's like, who knows where some of our own things come from. And so to be able to kind of, you know, like at Super Yoga Palace, we do things on the moon, the new moon, the full moon, just to give a bookend to like new moon, set some new intentions, full moon, close out, let's evaluate. It just gives a nice, you know, cycle of being able to reach for our highest potential and release what doesn't serve. And so with the desire map, it keeps us conscious and mindful about the things we say yes to and the things we say no thank you to, knowing that,
That's so sweet.
I did.
No, thank you.
I did measure this against my core desired feelings. It's not just because I'm being, you know, away or I'm having a feel. It's because it really, after, you know, just being conscious about planning what's my best yes for this life. Like, you're not going to get the best of me if I say yes to this, you know? And so feeling strong in that, you know?
I feel like that's so helpful and I have noticed this more and more as a counselor, that I think everybody struggles with boundaries on a certain level, you know, but like really connecting to saying yes to things that like feel good for you and being able to say no thank you. I like that so much, to the things that don't fit for you, and then you aren't like spread too thin, like you're talking about a little bit for yourself. I love that. Can I say something too that has been really cool that I've noticed with the desire map is that, so I love journaling. It's like one of my favorite things to do. It's like the most therapeutic, cathartic thing other than like going to therapy that I do for myself. And I've kind of like started using this as my journal. Like I still have my journal.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I always tell like people about it. I'm like an unofficial advocate.
Julianne gets me let me show you.
Let me show you. Like, I'm so unofficial. Like, it's low key therapy journaling, and I love how there's that.
Ooh, I like that. There's a lot of little hashtags we've got going on. Low key therapy journaling. And I am not a journaler because, like, again, I'm not much of a planner. But this has helped me feel like I can. And actually, you can look back, and I don't even know what kind of merit this has in therapy, but I'm sure almost like a life almanac where you can see where there's certain patterns or emotions. And so go, okay, this kind of happens this time of year or with this person or this situation. And you know.
Oh gosh, I haven't even thought about that.
Yeah. Oh, well, I kept my one from last year. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No,
but
I mean,
and there's a lot of research on journaling and like its impact and effects on mental health. So I think it's cool. Like even you're saying you're not a journaler, but you are able to do that with this planner. And I love the section for gratitude. Like if that was a feeling, I guess it is one of the feelings, and I just it's ingrained in my core feeling. I don't even have to name it anymore. Because there's so much research on that being able to kind of shift from that gratitude perspective. So I love that that's in there as well. Yeah. So it kind of lists out some key things you can focus on, journal prompts, I guess.
And and that really is key, you know, just at where we're located at Super Yoga Palace, like there's the stairs. And so something that just came to mind was no matter what brought somebody to that moment in that class for that day, the blessings are already plentiful. Like just the fact they're there, especially because it's not super obvious, like where we're at, you have access to information, you have means, you have transportation, you have choice, you have your limbs to be able to get up the stairs. Like there's so many things that we have just arriving to class that day. And so pointing out just, pointing out opportunities to be grateful. And, it really does prepare the heart. It helps open up the eyes. It's very, very good.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. I like that.
I mean, if I had to sum up a word, I think the desire map is really about clarity.
Oh, yeah.
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 Clarity in
The
who we are
desire
and
map
how we live.
Planner.
Oh, that's like the biggest gift. It gives you a lot of
Yeah.
strength to be
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah.
When you're clear, you can hold your space. You can know that the decisions you make have merit beyond, like it doesn't have to feel discombobulated. Like, that's really a gift. There's a lot that, we're in the information age and digital age. It makes things super possible that maybe weren't as possible before for people to do on their own. And there's a lot of opportunities, but it also causes so much distraction and a loss of being human.
Yeah. I lost sense of self.
Yeah.
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 So it's definitely, clarity is something that we all, can use more of. And even when people do desire mapping, there's little booklets, like if you get the book, she has a whole, as a facilitator, there's and I can share it with y'all too, but there's a link that people can see what all of her different things are that she offers, because people that go through the desire map, there's kind of a booklet so that 90 days later you can do another version of it. So because it might shift a little bit, seasons, time in life, and she has some really good resources to support that ongoing growth. Yeah.
I love
that's
that. So
awesome.
many resources out
Yeah.
there. And you listed a lot, and we can list those in our show notes too.
For sure.
And Julianne was trying to be nice and list the code at the beginning of our podcast, but we can list it now.
Yeah.
So, and then it looks like you have something you want to share too.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to, there was something I wanted to cover just attached to when figuring out the core desired feelings.
Yeah.
And something that you mentioned earlier, how it can be hard if you're so concerned about others. But there were 3 questions that she asks, because when we set intentions or goals, feelings, based on feelings, I love how she puts that we are either in the reign of trying to avoid pain or seek pleasure. And so when we are moving towards seeking pleasure, there's, I guess a sense of agency versus just trying to avoid out of fear. And the 3 common questions that I think are just hit home for everybody to think about when they're trying to come up with those core desired feelings are, just be careful if this is what's dictating you, or what other people think. What do other people think of me? What do other people want from me? And what can other people give to me? So, right, when it's so others focused, and this really is about you, just kind of being looking out for those questions and those thoughts.
I like that, Julian, of saying, what are you trying to do? Avoid pain or seek pleasure. And so, kind of figuring out where that's coming from, where that desire is coming from.
Yeah, and you had mentioned, I don't know, at the start, I don't know exactly what you said, but, is this moving me forward? And do I feel more like myself? Does this clear the way for more good stuff to show up? Will I sleep peacefully tonight? Would my significant other be proud of me? Those are the questions that we want to ask ourselves. And being able to figure out.
Yeah.
Kind of that shift, like you were saying, Jessica, of comparing yourself to others versus really tuning in with yourself.
Yeah. And that's where, maybe it's just my own experience, who knows? But I think with, say, yoga, of course we can all do a home practice. Most of us won't. Most of us won't do one as good, with as much focus, and some people will, but as we do when we're guided with a instructor. It's the energy around it. It's the space that's cleared for it. It's there's no distractions. The dog isn't barking. The phone's not going off. Well, sometimes that happens in this, but for the most part. And so I think with some of these questions, it's just such a great experience to be in a facilitated room. Everyone's being very real with their own stuff. There's a lot of freedom there. The distractions don't take you away from something that you would rather not maybe face. So you face it. You're facing it in a community of people. Not everyone has the opportunity to be part of a workshop. I know sometimes that's just, we just have to start with what we have and where we're at. And so we kind of talked about resources. But here in Dallas, we are going to be having, in March, we're going to start some regular workshops with her material and then expand that to go beyond what we can provide. So,
wow, that'll be cool. And you're going to be a part of that too, Julian.
Yeah. So, I mean, the group community aspect, I think, absolutely, and a level of accountability, and I think is what really moves it from a book to a way of being.
Yes. Yeah. And there's opportunities to facilitate this same material in those types of settings online. I'm just such an in-person person, but should the community ask for it in a way, that's how I usually make decisions too, is if I have a few people asking, I know that there's a bunch more asking the same thing, and so we open up that space. So these things, these opportunities, workshops can also be experienced live, like via Zoom and in those ways. So that may be something, maybe 2020, we'll see. But we're going to start with some of the workshops with her material, Free and Clear, Desire Map, Goals with Soul. And then for those that are entrepreneurial light or, all the way, she has material that I facilitate called the Fire Starter Session. Say that 5 times fast, which is awesome. But, I own a business and do a lot of hustle things, so I like that stuff. But same thing, though, because, it all goes back to how you want to feel and walking that out.
And being aware of what keeps you from being able to own and revisit like what you want. So I'm super excited that this is something that's going to happen.
Me too. I'm very glad about this. Also just the people that it brings in your life. Like I just love that. When I reflect on the year, I was teaching a class and I was thinking, I did not know almost any of these people like a year ago. Just thinking about people that are brought into your life one way or the other, and they meet at the palace, and and it's just, I don't know, that's just such a gift too. I love that.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Yay. Oh, I've been waiting, I've been like, can we talk about Goals with Soul? For a while now. So thanks so much for being here, Jessica. Is there any, last words, or I know that's such a
the final words.
Anything that we haven't covered that you want listeners to remember?
Well, I would love to just read this Magnetics of Feelings by Danielle Laporte. I think it just sums up a lot of this, and
let's end it with that.
Magnetics of Feelings. Feelings are magnetic. Each feeling is a beacon that attracts a reality. Love attracts love. Generosity elicits a generous response. Anger creates more things that could make you even angrier if you let them. What we focus on expands. So choosing to focus on life-affirming feelings is the surest way to create the experience you want.
Wow, that is good. Mic drop. Okay, show's over. No, I'm just kidding. But we do have the code for the Desire Map Planner to give out. So it is, you had to wait for the whole episode to get it. But it's Planner Love 2019. So Planner Love 2019. And we might put that in the show notes.
Yes. No, we will, for sure. And that's directly ordering off her website.
For $5 off or 10% off. So if you want to give this a try, and of course we'll link Super Yoga Palace and all of Jessica's information in our show notes so that they can stay in contact and do a workshop as well. So thank you so much for being on and sharing your information everything. So
Oh my gosh, this is so
great.
fun.
Yes, yeah. You'll have to come back.
I could get addicted to just like talking. Like,
You're right.
I don't know what I'm going to talk about.
We're here to listen.
So, okay. See you guys next week.